All right, let's talk about technology. What if it wasn't just about speed, getting things done faster? What if it was about remembering who we are together? Today, we're diving into this really radical idea called technosis. And look, if you're thinking, oh, great, another app or platform, think again. This is something else entirely. The source material actually calls it a tesseract of remembrance, which is a cool way of saying we should see tech not as some flat screen, but as this multidimensional tool for our collective memory. And yeah, this quote, it just nails it. We're not talking about code floating around in a cloud somewhere. This is a framework for a living civic and cultural operating system. I mean, think about that. It's designed for community, for culture. The whole point here is to make sure our tools don't get away from us, to keep them deeply nested inside our stories, our ethics, and our relationships with each other. So this is our guide for the journey. This is the Techgnosis Cosmogram. And okay, I get it. It looks a little complex at first glance, but trust me, there's a really profound logic to it. We're going to unpack that logic piece by piece, starting right from the center and working our way out. And as we do, you'll see how it lays out this tangible path from, well, an extractive way of being to one of genuine flourishing. Okay, so where do we begin? Let's start right where the cosmogram does, at the very heart of it all. Because the most important layer of this entire system, its real foundation, it's not technical, not at all. It's profoundly ethical and, relational. So you look at the absolute center of this thing, and what do you find? An AI. But hold on, it's not what you're probably thinking. This isn't some sovereign ruler or a digital overlord calling the shots. No, it's framed as a remembering heart, or even an Akashic librarian. Its only job, its entire job, is to act as a librarian of coherence. It's there to gather all the scattered pieces of a community's wisdom, to stop that collective amnesia that seems to be everywhere these days. And wrapped around that AI heart, you've got what the source calls the true architecture of the system. It's like its moral circuitry. Before any tool gets to do anything, it has to pass through these four big conditions. First up, it's got to be secure, creating this kind of sacred container where new ideas can emerge safely. Then transparent, but with discernment. So it's not just about blasting out information, it's about shedding light wisely. Third is honor, really recognizing the moral weight of our relationships. And finally, Brehon. This is a fascinating one. It's an ancient Irish idea like an ancestral software for restorative justice, focusing on bringing back balance instead of just punishment. And this is the key takeaway, right? The whole system is built on ethics first and tech second. All right, so we've got that ethical core locked in. Now we can start moving outward to the actual tools of the trade. These next layers, think of them as the practical organs and the digital assistants that help a community take all those deep principles and turn them into real-world action. So let's see what we've got. This green layer here, this represents the system's real-world organs. And instead of just running down a list, let's just pick a couple to see how they actually work. So you've got Serafu and Cyclos. These are tools for mutual exchange. They let value and skills and resources flow through a community without creating debt. Pretty cool, right? And then there's something like GAPGIS, Sacred Space Mapping. Now just think about that for a second. This is not Google Maps. It's a way for a community to map out what's truly meaningful to them. The sacred groves, the spots where elders meet, the places full of memory. It's basically a toolkit for an economy that actually accounts for what really, truly matters. And this really gets at the fundamental difference in philosophy, especially when we get to this blue, or augmentation layer. I mean, so often, our AI tools, they end up becoming the sovereign master, right? The algorithm becomes king. But in Techgnosis, it's completely flipped. Tools like Claude or Notebook LM are built from the ground up to be amplifying assistants. Their entire purpose is to serve the field of human connection, to help with community goals, not to own them, and definitely not to direct them. The AI is a powerful helper, for sure, but it is never, ever the boss. But, of course, a beautiful diagram on a screen is just a diagram. All of this would just be a really fascinating, abstract idea if it didn't actually touch the ground. So this next part is absolutely crucial. This is where we see how this whole system is designed to be lived, to be embodied by real people in real places. And this quote, man, it just says it all, doesn't it? Without that outer ring, the whole map would be elegant but bloodless. It's such a powerful reminder that you can have all the clever architecture and all the brilliant tools in the world, but they mean nothing, absolutely nothing, without the warmth of human connection. And this
This is where it gets its blood. That outer dotted ring you see, that stands for the embodied hearths. We're talking about real-world spaces, community kitchens, town halls, local hubs, places where people actually gather. This is where the real dialogue happens, where the digital tools are just there to support face-to-face connection. It's where all those abstract ideas from the system finally land and take root in the real world.
And obviously, it takes people to bring something like this to life. The source talks about this really beautiful triad of human roles. So first, you've got the pattern holder, Rainier. You can think of this person as the architect, the one who receives the design and shapes the vision into something tangible. Then there's the heart holder, Mudu, who's like the guardian of the project's values, protecting its spiritual core so it doesn't just become dry and hollow. And finally, you have the field of power. This isn't a person, but it's all the practical resources, the energy, the collective will, everything you need to actually make it happen on Earth. It's like this trinity of form, love, and the power to create.
Okay, so we have the ethical core, we have the practical tools, and we have the human element. So how in the world do you weave all of that together? Well, the ultimate goal is this art form that the source calls wholenessing. And that's a cool word, so let's unpack what it really means.
And this is such a key insight. Wholenessing isn't some static state of perfection you finally arrive at. It's a verb. It's an action. It's the ongoing act of making sure all these different pieces, the architecture, the relationships, the design, that they don't just exist next to each other, but that they truly belong to one another, that they form a coherent living whole.
And that process, it starts with wholenessing at shape. Just think about it like building a house, right? Before you even dream of adding a second story or a new wing, you have to make absolutely sure that the foundation, the walls, the roof, that they all fit together perfectly. So this first step is all about getting that core design right, making sure the architecture is sound and all the relationships just fit together elegantly. Then, and only then, once that initial shape is strong and coherent, the work can move to wholenessing at scale. And this is the big leap. This is going from a single beautiful blueprint to something that's a replicable, even a civilizational method. It's about creating a pattern that's resilient enough to be adopted by other communities, that can last over time and that can connect with other systems without, losing its own integrity. Which brings us right to this powerful final thought that kind of sums it all up. Techgnosis is the marriage of knowing and making under remembrance, a way for wisdom, technology, exchange, land, and dialogue to become wholenessing in shape, and then wholenessing at scale. It's a pretty profound vision, isn't it? A future where our technology doesn't distract us, but actually helps us become more human, more connected, more whole. And really, it leaves us with a big question. What would it even look like if our own communities started trying to build with these kinds of principles in mind?